Paris already, I met people and I read books about Eastern traditions. I read books about Zen, I read the Bhagavad Gita, other books about Hinduism and Buddhism. I think, yes, I read Alan Watts also, The Way of Zen and the book and those very seminal works. And but I had not met any spiritual teacher. And also because I was a young physicist, very eager and engaged in a beginning career as a theoretical researcher. And so when I came to California, I came to Santa Cruz, which was then a relatively new campus of the UC system and pretty far out, as we used to say then. You know, there were very unconventional people on the faculty and even more unconventional lecturers that were invited. And Krishnamurti was one of them. He came to Santa Cruz for 3 days I think 3 days, and gave 3 consecutive lectures. And they really affected me very strongly because he was very radical. He did not refer to any spiritual tradition, but just to spirituality as such. He addressed the subject in a very direct, original way. And he focused on the importance of going beyond thinking, of being present in a different way, of communicating in a different way, beyond time and beyond thought. And this impressed me very much and at the same time disturbed me very much, because I was then a young theorist just beginning to make a career by thinking. I was paid for thinking. I was bent on making my career by thinking. And now there is this Eastern teacher who was already an old man and also looked very much like Castaneda's Don Juan. The Castaneda books also came out, as you know, at that time. The teachings of Don Juan were published, I think, in 67 or 68.
69, yeah.
And so this was really my Don Juan sitting there telling me to stop thinking. And so it really disturbed me. And I tried to talk to him afterwards, but it was very difficult to arrange an interview or anything like this. But finally I succeeded. And this conversation was really one of the first major turning points in my life, because he solved my problem with one sentence, you know, at a stroke, sort of like a Zen master. And I asked him, as a scientist, just engaging in this career, how can I follow your advice and stop thinking? And achieving, as he called it, freedom from the known. And he just looked at me and said right away, first you are a human being, then you are a scientist. As a human being, you can reach your wholeness only through meditation. And he talked a little bit about what he meant by that. And then once you have reached that centered state, then you can think, and science is wonderful. There's no question of you giving up science. I love science, he said, but that's only part of you, and the whole is much more. And that solved my problem. And I think it's a very significant story, not only personally for me, but also for the change of culture. And in the whole book, by the way, I don't tell any personal story that is only personal.
You're speaking of uncommon wisdom.
Of uncommon wisdom, yes. I recount this story in the book. And all the stories I tell there are stories that have relevance and are significant for this change of consciousness that we are all going through now. And I think here the relevance is that most scientists are threatened by this comparison that I made in the Tao of Physics between ideas in modern physics and ideas in mystical traditions. And they are threatened because they see their science attacked at its very core. When you call something mystical in the parlance of physicists, in the scientific community, that has always meant very suspect and very unscientific. And now to say to a physicist, your cherished theory is very similar to the theory of a mystical tradition, and that's very threatening. And I've known this by the reactions I got from the scientific community. some of which were by people who were very threatening.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.